Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out Confession. Story 1. I fake getting my period just so I can have breaks at work. When I first started working for this company not long ago, my female colleague saw my bag that I accidentally left open. She offered me a tampon as she saw my pack of pads only had 2. I've been on the pill for years due to really heavy flow, but always carry something with me because you never know. I didn't exactly want to tell people my personal business, so I just said it's okay, I don't need it, and left it. When I went up to go the bathroom, she put a tampon in my hand and said just in case. In the moment I just smiled and said thank you, so I sat in the toilet for about 6 minutes just ticking time over on my phone. And then I realized that these few small minutes just helped the day feel like less of a drag. We get a break additional to lunch, but everyone talks and I just want to recharge my batteries. So now, 1 week out of every month, I take 5 to 10 minute bathroom breaks once or twice a day. I take my bag with me which has my phone in, and I just chill for those short minutes. It may seem pointless for just 1 week out of every month, but it just helps. I wouldn't be surprised if someone in the office knew my fake period schedule and knows exactly when I'm due my flow. It's such a simple, unhurtful lie, but because no one could possibly know it's a lie, it feels weird, as though I'm trying to get away with something. LOL. Story 2. I made fake throw up to stay home from school when I was 11. This isn't some big juicy confession, just something I did that's funny to me. I just remembered it and have told no one. When I was 11 I was going to this private school and hated it. Got bullied and all that shit. Anyway, I literally would cry to my mom saying I didn't wanna go, and she let me stay home a lot, but finally she said I couldn't stay home anymore. So one night I decided to fake sick. She wouldn't just let me not go for no reason. Apparently faking like I got sick in the toilet and flushed it wasn't believable enough, so I had the idea to make my own. It was about 11 p.m. Mom and Dad were dead asleep. I went to the kitchen and remember getting milk, salsa, different kinds of chips, juice, and maybe some cheese or something. Anyway, I crushed up the chips, mixed it all up in a bowl, and put it in the microwave for like 1 minute. I proceeded to my bedroom and poured it all on the carpet. It didn't smell as bad as actual throw up would. But I had to hurry, so I put on my fake sick face and voice and went to my mom's room. Told her. Made her come to my room to see the masterpiece, and she just looked at it with no reaction. She was genuinely unfazed. She wasn't comforting me like she usually would. She also has a very weak stomach and didn't gag at all, just had no emotion. She said okay, clean this up and go back to bed. And walked back to her room. I was low-key disappointed. That's RLY how you're gonna act to my hard work. LMAO. Anyway, next morning she woke me up for school and I laid in bed until she came back again and said something like, "Do you remember I got sick last night? I still don't feel good," and she literally just said, "Yeah, just stay home. Nothing else. No, hope you feel better, no, let me take your temp, no, you're going to the doctor like usual." Thinking back on it, she 100% knew it was fake, and it's low-key embarrassing. Maybe she saw the effort and was like, okay, she RLY doesn't wanna go. To this day I have no idea what possessed me to make fake throw up RLY unnecessary. Anyway, that's all. Sorry if it was lame, I just never told anyone. Story 3. I quit my horrendous job, but I told my friends I got fired. I recently retired from the military and began looking for a permanent position. I took a job in the fall of last year with high hopes that it would carry me over to permanent retirement. It paid very well and was for a company that makes billions in revenue every year. However, about a month in I realized why my position was constantly open. The boss was extremely toxic. She called meetings just for the sake of calling a meeting, and made her employees live a living hell. I grew to hate waking up every day and dreaded the first phone call from her, which usually involved her sending me on a wild goose chase for something that was pointless. I made to the spring but couldn't handle my boss anymore. However, people in my family don't quit. We endure even if it ruins our mental and physical health, but even if other options are out there, we don't quit. In March our company had layoffs, and I honestly prayed I was one of the few being let go. I wasn't. My family heard about the layoffs, and wondered if I was one of them being let go. Before I could think straight, I said yes, so sad but I am being let go. I put in my notice, making sure not to burn bridges with my toxic boss in spite of how sick of her I was. I was able to get a new job quickly, with comparable pay and benefits, that I love so financially I was fine but my family went around telling everyone that I got laid off. I don't regret leaving whatsoever, but I regret lying and now having to sustain it. I know I was wrong, but I felt desperate. Story 4. I used to steal toys as a kid because we were poor. When I was about 8-9 years old we were quite poor. Single mom, busting her ass for 3 kids and the lack of dollar was always apparent. I don't know why but it triggered a lot of shame as a kid when I'd be around other kids at school or at friends' houses and they'd have all of this cool new stuff. Anyways, when we would go grocery shopping I'd sometimes steal toys. Pog and action figurines were what I'd take. I think at least a dozen times I stole Pog and probably 4 or 5 action figures. I remember enjoying the feeling of having some new toys to show my friends when they came over to play. Never got caught. When mom asked where they came from I would tell her a friend had loaned them to me or an auntie I saw every few months gave me a present. Story 5. I once found a bag of weed at school and sold it to my dad. Disclaimer, I was in the 4th grade. My dad used to sell weed when I was a kid. I knew what it was. He would have people come over when he was asleep and we, his kids, would sell it for him. I found a bag of weed on the ground while walking out of school one day. I picked it up before anyone could see and took it home. My dad wanted me to give it to him but I made him buy it off of me. I knew it wasn't something you just give away. Learned from him lol. Story 6. Every time I do groceries I must steal something from the supermarket. Yeah. That's right. I can't help it. Today it was some ginger but I often take lemons, garlic, a bar of chocolate. I feel like I have this need to have a small advantage because every time I have to buy something I feel ripped off. Inflation, taxes. Maybe I'm what's wrong with my country but yet I have the feeling everybody else has been doing the same. Story 7. I kept a 100 cash tip instead of sharing with my colleagues. Years ago I worked in a restaurant. My colleagues were complete arseholes. They would do the absolute bare minimum and had no passion for the job. One evening we had a group of 12 in for dinner. The other 2 people I was working with that evening just bummed about as per usual, going out for lots of smoke breaks when there was guests to serve. Usually any cash tips got put in the jar and split equally at the end of the night. I done everything for this table completely on my own, including making/running all their drinks from the bar to the restaurant, which technically I wasn't meant to do but the barman was being so slow it was faster and easier to just do it myself. At the end of the night, the group were all splitting the bill amongst themselves. One guy came up to the desk to process their payment and told me to split the change between all the staff. I was so pissed off with all the others for barely helping me that I kept the remaining 100 for myself and didn't bother to put it in the jar. At the end of the night they asked how much they tipped and I said nothing. They were all really pissed off and I walked home feeling pretty smug about it. After a little thought, I felt bad for the chefs as the group said the food was delicious so the next night after work, the chefs and I all went out for drinks which I paid for but never mentioned anything about the tips. To this day I still feel guilty for keeping the lot and not splitting it with the chefs. Story 8. I, 24M, stole upwards of 500 Pokemon cards from a first grader. So this happened almost 8 years ago now. I, 24M, went to a K-12 private school for most of my life. When I was in 9th grade, my younger brother entered kindergarten. Every day would walk down to the kindergarten room to pick up my brother and we would walk home together. One day I was walking down to the kindergarten room, and during my walk I always pass the first grade room. They don't have lockers for kindergarten and first grade, just hooks in the hall outside the room to hang their coats/bags and a shelf just above to place their lunch boxes. This particular day I was walking down the hall, which was totally empty as I usually left my study hall a bit early to get to my brother's classroom before the halls are crowded, and I noticed as I passed the hooks and shelf outside the first grade room that there was a fairly large container with Pokemon cards inside on the shelf. For context of why I did this, I have been collecting Pokemon cards for years, but my family wasn't super rich or anything, so I didn't have many in my collection compared to other kids I knew, maybe 200 cards of my own. I don't know what came over me, but I took the container of cards. Didn't even think twice about it. I stuffed it in my backpack and continued on with my day. Frankly, I had completely forgotten about it until recently, and I just wanted to get it off my chest without having to tell someone I know and have them think that I'm a terrible person. Story 9. I stole from a lady that hired me to work at her home. This happened about 5 years ago and still feel guilty as hell about it. She was a really attractive woman in her early 40s. She left me in her home alone, and as soon as she was gone I thought it would be a great idea to look in her dresser drawer. I was curious to see what style panties she wore. I found the drawer and it was stuffed with a bunch of sexy thongs of every color. I took a black lace thong and also a beige thong. I took them home and jerked off into them. Story 10. I get bored, so I get drivers to slow down by waving at them. Sometimes when I am driving, I get bored. So I stick my arm out the window and wave at other drivers using the slow down movement, so they slow down as they are going back up the road. Story 11. We used to wanna be robbers. I'm not sure what was wrong with us, lol. So, me and my friend, Lake, for privacy, used to be obsessed with stealing. We would steal just about anything we put our hands on. Food, drinks, money, etc. We wanted to be robbers so bad that we got in trouble and learned to act and talk all innocent. We gave up that lifestyle though, and returned most of the things that we could, lol. Never stolen since then. Story 12. I may have indirectly killed a bird the other day. Some context before I explain how I did this. For the past few weeks a barn swallow has had a mud nest on the ceiling of our porch, taking care of their eggs for hours at a time and even taking shifts with its partner. The birds eventually hatched and grew their feathers and what have you. Everything seemed to be going well until one day, I notice a baby lying on the floor below the nest. My first thought was to wear gloves and return them to their mother, but before I did anything, I did some research and found out some birds push their young out of the nest to teach them survival skills, so I let it be. Later on, I found the bird had passed away. I've felt so bad ever since and haven't been able to share the news with my family. If I had done my research properly, the bird may have lived. There are 4 different nests on our property and I've tried my best to make sure nothing else happens to any other baby, but I can't shake the guilt off myself. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.